I have a signed statement from my front desk receptionist saying that Todd Towers called Texture Media on July 26, 2007, asking to speak to someone at an executive level. He then called back on July 27th and July 30th and stressed that his calls were urgent and that he needed to talk to someone as soon as possible. These were reported to the Boulder County Sheriff's Office on July 30th, 2007. The employee that he spoke with at Texture Media is named Sarah Payne. She's been working with us for a long time, and I have her signature on this sheet of paper that I got right before I left work today saying that all of these statements are true and accurate.
Your Honor, may I speak?
For the record, this is Mr. Andrew.
Correct. And I'm the President and CEO of Texture Media. Todd is an employee at Texture Media. Your Honor, prior to receiving this summons, I had no previous knowledge of this matter with Todd and Mr. Towers, Mr. Towers. It was brought to my attention only after the summons was served requesting my appearance in court. I understand from the claim that there are several attempts made to contact my office. I personally do not receive any direct voicemails or emails, although he might have spoken to the general receptionist. And after consulting our legal counsel, it's our belief that state precedent in court indicates that we're not responsible for any activities of our employees other than activities that are engaged in the scope of work around paid client activities. And as this seems to have no relation to any of our paid client activities, I'm really not sure what our role or involvement in is in this, and respectfully request that it be dismissed. And that's really that's about all I know.
If the claim today is against Texture Media,
and it's against both of you, evidently.
Okay, well, that is the first part of my response. What I initially told you when I started speaking. The second part of my response is Mr. Towers has brought a lot of evidence to the table that is not based in fact, and he's contrived himself and printed out.
His principal point seems to be that the emails from the Fortitude address, on the document from Google, you're showing as the secondary email. And that is his punchline for connecting you to the emails that say to the various people that the vehicle's been sold.
Fair enough. And the Fortitude.5 address is my address, but it was set up in a fashion where Mr. Towers, when he lived with me, had full access to my computer, which had a file on the computer with all of my passwords and everything to all my email.
So you think they're from him?
I can't make assumptions at this point in time. There are a lot
but
of things.
Are you saying they're not from you?
There are, some of them are. There's a couple in the stack that he presented that are from me, and the large majority of them have been furnished by Mr. Towers, and I had nothing with them. Somebody sent me an email saying you might want to check out this forum because your name and your email address and your login and password are being referenced in public forums with statements about you being attached to the postings. So I logged on to find an insubordinate amount of material being passed back and forth. It's a communication forum. I mean, it's posting after posting after posting. It's not just like you look in one place and everything becomes clear as day. So I find my name attached in some of these. I also want to point out that during the tenure that Mr. Towers and I lived together, that he did have full access to my computer, which did contain a file.
For how long?
A month.
For a minute, I thought you said 10 years.
No, our tenure living together. Sorry, my apologies. And not the most safest practices in the world, but I lived in a house with a couple roommates, and I have a lot of passwords for various sites. All of my passwords to all of my email accounts are and were available in a file on my desktop. So again, I'm not accusing him of forging anything in my name, but at the same time I do want to point out that he did have access to my computer and therefore easy access to any of my accounts should he want to go in and do whatever he pleased with them. It really is irrelevant to me whether he did or whether he didn't, because I don't really care either way. To me, it's just email. Your Honor, I do agree with Mr. Towers that I do need to defend his claims against me, but my defense is the evidence that he produced for you was not written by me, and I have produced you what I acknowledge of participating in this online forum regarding the Subaru car. I do acknowledge that much. I do not acknowledge the fact that I wrote these because they're falsified, and I have no idea where to assume that they came from, but they were not from my own handwriting. His new way of trying to harass me was through the court system, so that's what he was saying. This whole testimony is all this made up stuff, but he knows that my work gets really irritated when I have to leave for half the day, because that's just the way they are. So yeah. He's figured out that he can really get under my skin by taking me to court repetitively, and not once has he been awarded judgment. So it's just a matter of time before some judge tells him to just beat it. Otherwise, I don't know what they could do.
Yeah.
I just keep having to show up, otherwise judgment gets entered against me. So yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, well, thanks for your help. I appreciate it. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Well, here's the thing. What I did was I looked at that posting that is signed, Todd Towers, but that he claims he didn't post. And there's a posting ID number. You probably know a lot more about computers than I do, but I'm kind of learning as I go. And so there's a posting ID number there. So what I did was I got in touch with Craigslist and provided them with that posting ID number. And they were able to tell me the email address that posting ID was created from, and it's called powdergoat@gmail.com. Is that right?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. And they're also able to provide me with the IP address that originated from, which is just a string of numbers. But the numbers are 71.33.240.190. So then what I was able to do, I got on the internet and was able to find out that that's an IP address that's provided by Quest.
Right.
Okay. And so then I got in touch with Quest, and they told me that IP address is leased by Texture Media. And is that where you work?
Right.
So it's looking like that posting was made by somebody in the Texture Media building.
Rationally see the fact that any normal person is not going to, even if it did, let's just pretend for a second that, I had nothing else to do, but other than during the period that this car was up for sale, try to completely destroy his life. I mean, this is like an isolated incident, at least in my understanding, unless he's presented you with stuff that I have no idea about. An isolated incident that took place over the course of like a week's time or something like that. And I mean, it happened. I don't even know the date off the top of my head, but back beginning of this year sometime. I just basically, in summary, I have no reason to. I'm telling you, I admit to making one post that I shouldn't have made because it obviously aggravated him to the point that, since we emailed back and forth about it, it aggravated him to the point that he wanted to try to implicate me in as much of the situation as he possibly could.
Are you talking about the one that said the Subaru deal was a scam? Is that what you're talking about?
There were a lot that took portions of what I said and that were reposted either by him or by somebody else, and used exact copies of portions of what I wrote. So I'm hesitant to tell you without seeing it what I but yes, I mean that was part of it.
Okay. Do you remember chatting with him back and forth? He was pretending to be somebody named Amon Conifer, and he said, I read what you wrote, I'm disgusted. It kind of goes on like that for a little while, and then you email back, yeah, it's definitely Todd Towers, I bought a car from him, that kind of stuff.
No, I don't remember that name.
That wasn't you? Okay, because it came from fortitude@gmail.com, which is also linked to your Todd
right.
email address.
Whatever you guys want to do. Okay. I remember the name from stuff that he's produced in court, and I may or may this is jogging my memory a little bit. Not excuse me for saying absolutely not at the beginning, if that's what I said.
Oh,
I do remember him bringing these documents to court,
okay.
And I do remember sending an email to whatever, I forget what you said.
A mock conifer or something like that.
Because it was presented to me in court, and there was a section of it that I did that was, that was correspondence between me and this person, but then he presented this whole other string of emails that I did not send to this person. That, I have, and this was actually the first instance, or one of the first instances where I realized that something was going on here that was beyond my control.
I'll level with you on a couple of things. First of all, if his allegation is that you posted this email, or this posting that I just read to you a few minutes ago, that's signed Todd Towers, if that's true, that's a criminal impersonation charge, which is a felony. Okay, so it's somewhat serious. It's not just like a prank or, somebody expressing their opinion. It's like kind of more serious than that.
Right.
Second of all, if I start digging further and further, and it looks like, Todd Williams probably did do this, I'm going to have no choice but to write a warrant for your arrest. If that's the case, so, I kind of need you to level with me. Am I going to go to all this trouble just to find out, you're lying to me now, or what am I going to figure out here?
I regret posting the fact that I, wouldn't buy the car if I was somebody looking for the car. And like I told you before, I have a lot of, other friends and coworkers. I'm not trying to implicate any of my coworkers in this matter, but I have a lot of other friends and coworkers that, know him personally and have heard what has been going on with me and him since 2005. And I do have, personal firsthand knowledge of other people that were posting to try to help out the general community to not buy this car. And
like I said, I just wanted to be honest with you that, you are a suspect in this case. But that's not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean anything at this time.
It's basically gotten completely out of control. Craigslist is a forum where everybody on Earth is pretty much allowed to state their opinions on whatever they want, whether it's based in fact or whether it's based in opinion. Or, to be honest with you, I'm sure if you've looked on that site at all, you can post something that's completely